Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You wake up each morning and the world applauds your routine. The coffee cup warms your hands, the traffic hums like a predictable heartbeat, and your colleagues greet you with rehearsed smiles. On the surface, everything seems normal. You appear calm, composed, successful even, yet beneath the smooth veneer of daily life, chaos stirs quietly like a storm trapped under ice. Your emotions flicker in shadows you never named. Your desires whisper in the corridors of your mind, often drowned by habit and distraction. Most people never notice. They live as though the mirror only shows what is polished, never what is broken. You might smile, nod, fit in, but each gesture is a mask. The mask of normalcy isn't just a disguise, it is a veil over your own truths, a fence around your inner wilderness. And behind that veil, the parts of you refuse to face. Watch, patient waiting, always influencing the choices you think are free. You move through life, believing you are steering, yet unseen forces pull at your strings. Childhood wounds, whispered rejections, hidden fears, they are the silent architects of your decisions. Every choice of partner, every career path, every act of avoidance may not be yours at all. They are echoes of old pain, inherited patterns, shadows cast long before you could understand them. Imagine a puppeteer pulling invisible threads. The strings are delicate but unyielding, and you dance believing it is your own rhythm. A comment triggers rage that feels foreign. A word of praise elates you more than it should. A habit loops endlessly, leaving you exhausted. You are not broken. You are unconsciously driven. And the more you ignore it, the deeper the shadows sink, quietly scripting your life story in ways you will only recognize in retrospect. And then comes the moment, the flicker of recognition that stops you cold. What if every belief you cling to, every image you hold of yourself, is built on the unexamined shadows of your past? What if the comfort you seek, the persona you cultivate, is a tapestry of fears and unhealed wounds? The realization is sharp, like a blade cutting through pretense. It is terrifying because the world you believe to be real begins to shift. The people you trusted, the roles you played, even your self-image, none of it is entirely yours. For the first time, you glimpse the truth. You are not merely a product of circumstance, but of hidden forces you never named. And now, standing on this precipice, you have a choice. You can retreat, or you can turn inward into the shadows that have shaped you. Only there, in the silence, can you begin to untangle the life you have inherited from the life you are meant to create. You are the architect of your own awakening. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing themselves. You tell yourself that your friendships, your romances, your online connections are enough. They fill your evenings with laughter, your phone with notifications, your calendar with appointments. They soothe the ache of solitude, distract you from the silence that waits behind closed doors. But stop for a moment and look closer. How often do these relationships demand nothing of you? How often do they reflect only the surface you present? The polite smile, the confident laugh, the curated life. True connection never asks for masks. It digs, it challenges, it stirs your depths. The handshakes and casual dinners, the constant checking of phones for likes and messages, the endless swiping for attention, they are temporary anesthetics. They mimic intimacy but leave the hollows of your being untouched. You feel the emptiness later, in quiet moments, when the laughter fades and the screen goes dark. The reflection staring back at you is familiar, yet alien. You have been settling for shadows of connection, and it has trained your heart to confuse noise with belonging. You crave approval, yet it is a fragile, fleeting illusion. Praise from friends, bosses, strangers online, They feed you a warmth that quickly dies. You adjust your words, your appearance, even your dreams, to be more likable, more acceptable. The cage you inhabit is mirrored. You see yourself through the eyes of others and forget your own. You hide your fears, your ambitions, the messy parts of your mind. You wear the masks so convincingly that even you begin to believe them. And every time someone applauds the persona, you feel relief, but it is a relief built on sand. The more you chase validation, the more invisible strings guide your choices, pulling you further from your authentic self. Like a marionette dancing to applause, you forget the music inside you, the voice that whispers the truth no one else can see. Even comfort itself can betray you. The routines that cradle you, the habits that soothe anxiety, the predictability of your environment, they appear safe, familiar, necessary, but safety without awareness is a slow poison. You walk the same streets, drink the same coffee, scroll the same feeds, sleep in the same patterns, and call it life. The same walls that protect you also imprison you, concealing your fears, your desires, your hidden wounds. You avoid the darkness because it is frightening, yet in avoidance, you deny the chance to heal. You are comforted, yes, but also anesthetized. The prison is quiet, but it is real. The moment you lift your gaze, you see it, the gilded bars, the illusion of safety, the life half-lived, and deep within, you feel the call to something more, a life that is honest, raw, and alive, demanding courage beyond the surface illusions you've clung to. You are awake when you see the truth behind comfort. The shadow is a tight-packed bundle of the unconscious, the repository of everything you refuse to see in yourself. You carry a ghost within you. It is silent, yet it moves through every decision, every impulse, every restless night. You call it habit, luck, or temperament, but it is your shadow, the hidden dictator shaping your life from the dark corners of your mind. It watches from the depths, whispering fear into your choices, bending your desires, and steering your reactions. You plan, you strategize, you think you are free, but the shadow pulls strings you do not even see. It nudges you towards safety while warning away risk, pushes you to people who echo your past pain, and keeps you locked in cycles of repetition. Every anxiety, every irrational rage, every compulsion is its signature, its invisible fingerprint. You sense it when your heart tightens for no reason, when a word triggers you more than it should, or when you are inexplicably drawn to the same toxic patterns again and again. It is not evil, it is unseen. It is not malicious, it is unconscious, but it rules, quietly, relentlessly, and if you ignore it, you will continue to live a life pre-written by shadows you have refused to meet. Some of these shadows are inherited. You are not only a product of your own experiences, but of the wounds carried down through generations, the silent echoes of parents, grandparents, and ancestors whose pain shaped the world you entered, their fears, their silences, their unresolved grief thread into your body like invisible roots, anchoring patterns you mistake for personal flaws. A sudden fear of rejection may echo a grandmother's shame. A compulsion to overachieve may replay a father's unspoken guilt. These hidden chains shape your reactions before you can even think. You find yourself repeating patterns you would never consciously choose, responding in ways that surprise or even terrify you. The roots are deep, entangled, and invisible, yet they hold you fast, demanding that you recognize them if you hope to step into freedom. To face the shadow is to trace these chains back to their source, naming what has been unnamed, feeling what has been suppressed, and finally reclaiming the space within that has always been yours. And then there are the moments of betrayal, the times you have undermined yourself without knowing why. You pursue relationships that echo abandonment. You sabotage opportunities just as they near success. You speak words that hurt yourself more than anyone else. The shadow is at work, repeating patterns. It has learned to survive, protecting you in ways you do not yet understand. Perhaps you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Perhaps you left when you should have stayed. Perhaps you chose the familiar pain over unfamiliar truth. Each instance leaves a mark, a lesson whispered but ignored. Life becomes a mirror reflecting the unseen scripts of your shadow until you pause and ask, why do I choose this again? Why do I betray myself so readily? When you face these moments with courage, you begin to see the unseen puppeteer behind your own hand, the silent force directing the course of your days, the teacher hidden in pain and repetition. You awaken the shadow when you claim the life it tried to shape alone. Man cannot stand a meaningless life. You feel it first as a tremor beneath your chest, a sudden hollowness that swallows the routine you once clung to. The masks you wore, smiles, polite words, the careful performance of confidence fall away, one by one. You are left with the raw, unadorned self, and it is frightening. The world you knew crumbles silently around you, and for the first time you confront the void. The silence is heavy, almost suffocating. You realize that all the structures you depended on, relationships, achievements, routines, were scaffolding over a deep, unexamined emptiness. Every decision you thought was free now seems orchestrated by shadows you ignored. It is as if the ground beneath your feet has vanished, leaving you dangling in a chasm of your own becoming. This void is not a place of despair alone. It is also a mirror, reflecting the unprocessed pain, the unspoken fears, and the hidden desires that you have long denied. To confront it is to meet yourself fully, to stand in the storm without flinching. And as the wind of awareness howls around you, you sense that collapse is not destruction. It is the raw material of transformation, a necessary clearing for the self you have yet to assemble. The fragments of your identity scatter like broken glass, each shard reflecting a different image of who you thought you were. The student, the partner, the worker, the friend, the achiever, each role shatters under the weight of truth. You look into the mirror, and it shows not a single reflection, but dozens, all distorted, all incomplete. Childhood beliefs, societal expectations, and past traumas clash and twist in the shards, leaving your sense of self fractured. You remember the praise you chased, the acceptance you craved, the false strengths you relied on, and now they lie in splinters around you. You are simultaneously familiar and alien to yourself. The pain is cinematic, almost unbearable. The ache of realizing that much of what you were certain of was constructed, borrowed, or imposed. Yet in this fragmentation lies possibility, the chance to gather the shards with intention, to piece together a self that is authentic, unafraid, and whole in its own imperfection. And the cost of awakening is steep. Fear presses in, a weight on your chest that makes every breath a struggle. Loneliness creeps like a tide, reminding you that no one else can do this for you, that the journey through the void is yours alone. Old comforts feel hollow, and familiar patterns betray you as you confront the truths they were meant to hide. Disorientation becomes a companion, for the map you once relied on no longer exists. You must learn to trust your own compass, your own inner voice, however faint or trembling it may feel. Every step forward is a choice to face uncertainty rather than cling to illusion, to embrace the rawness of existence instead of masking it. And in that brave confrontation, in that willingness to endure the collapse, you find the first glimmer of freedom, a freedom born not from comfort, but from courage, from truth, from the refusal to remain small in the face of your own becoming. You are whole when you embrace the pieces of yourself, People often mistake attention for love and approval for belonging. You believed the smiles, the compliments, the late-night texts were love. You believed the handshakes, the invitations, the casual friendships were signs that you mattered. Yet, pause and look closer. Most of these connections were surface-deep, reflections of convenience and habit, rather than the warmth of understanding. They asked little of you, and in return, they offered even less. Validation became currency, and masking became survival. You learned to present only the acceptable version of yourself, hiding cracks, fears, and desires. Every laugh that didn't reach your eyes, every nod that felt empty, every praise that left your chest hollow, these were echoes of false belonging. They were not in love. They were rehearsed attention, a temporary balm for loneliness, a mirage in the desert of authenticity. Real love, real belonging, demands recognition of the unpolished self. It doesn't flinch when you show your fears. It doesn't vanish when you speak truth. It doesn't reward only the polished mask. The realization is stark. You have been seeking approval in places that never held space for the real you, and that understanding, though painful, is liberation. Solitude, once feared, becomes a mirror. In the silence of empty rooms, in the quiet of early mornings, in the untouched corners of your own mind, you begin to see yourself. There is no applause here, no reflected image in someone else's eyes, only the unfiltered truth. It is in this stillness that desires surface, the ones that are drowned in the noise of seeking validation. The authentic self, the one you've hidden to survive, emerges raw and undeniable. Walk through a forest alone, sit in a cafe without distraction, stare into your own reflection without flinching. These moments of isolation are revelations. They are not punishments. They are invitations to meet yourself fully, to recognize life, the love, and the choices that belong only to you. The world outside may never affirm it, but the truth of your being does not require permission. And now, the narrative shifts. What you once called betrayal, what you once called rejection, what you once labeled as failure, it was never about you. It was the exposure of what was never real. The attention, the validation, the hollow connections masquerading as love. They were lessons, not punishments. They were mirrors, not judgments. You rewrite the story, not as a victim, but as a witness, as someone who has emerged from illusion into clarity. Every experience, no matter how painful, now becomes a signpost, pointing toward authenticity. You understand that real belonging begins within, that love begins with recognition of your own shadow and light, and that the world you engage with reflects what you have chosen to embrace in yourself. Liberation is simple, but it is earned in solitude, in clarity, in the refusal to settle for less than genuine truth. You belong to yourself first, and only then to the world. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. You stand at the threshold of your own darkness, the shadow you have avoided, denied, and feared for so long waits silently, patient, unyielding. Its presence is not punishment, it is invitation. Naming it is the first act of courage. You call it anger, fear, jealousy, or shame. You give it a place at the table of consciousness, no longer hidden, no longer driving your choices from the dark. Acknowledgement does not soften the shadow, but it stops its silent tyranny. You see it clearly for the first time, and in that clarity, power begins to pulse through your veins. It is cinematic, this moment. The heartbeat quickens, the air sharpens, the mind awakens. You realize that everything you feared in yourself, every compulsive thought, every recurring pain, every buried impulse, has been waiting for recognition, not punishment. By naming it without judgment, you strip it of unconscious control. You do not annihilate it, you illuminate it, and illumination is the birth of mastery. Integration follows reflection. You write the words that tremble in your chest. You speak aloud the truths that have whispered in shadows. You sit in meditation, letting the silence reveal what was once hidden. The process is like fire forging steel. Pain becomes a hammer, introspection becomes the anvil, and your consciousness is the molten metal that bends, twists, and finally hardens into strength. Journals filled with confessions, dialogues with your inner self, moments of mindful observation, all serve to transmute wounds into wisdom. You notice patterns not as curses, but as guides. You observe the triggers, the reactions, the automatic loops, and with each recognition, the shadow loses its grip. It is no longer something alien to you. It is a part of the raw material from which you craft resilience. The fire burns, yes, but it also tempers. The heat of reflection becomes the source of clarity, power, and self-command. And then you meet your shadow as an ally. The wounds that once enslaved you now speak in insight. The chaos that threatened to undo you now teaches strategy. The fears that paralyzed you now signal direction. Every trauma becomes a teacher, every regret a compass, every scar a reminder of survival and growth. You no longer fear your darkness, you harness it. It whispers intuition when logic fails. It alerts you to deception. It strengthens your will. Power does not come from avoidance, nor from denial, nor from pretending the shadow does not exist. It comes from recognition, integration, and alliance. And in this partnership you discover something cinematic and profound. The life you once thought dictated by fear is now orchestrated by conscious choice, insight, and courage. Your shadow is no longer a ghost haunting your steps. It is the wings beneath them, carrying you into mastery. You are powerful when you walk hand in hand with your shadow. Even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. After the storm within, after the shadow has been faced and integrated, there comes a calm that feels almost miraculous. The chaos that once dictated your thoughts, emotions, and choices begins to recede, leaving a clarity you never imagined. It is as if the night has stretched endlessly, heavy with fear, doubt, and confusion, and now slowly dawn breaks. Light spills into corners of your mind that were long neglected, revealing truths you once avoided. You notice the subtle beauty of ordinary moments, the quiet hum of a morning, the rhythm of your own breath, the soft warmth of sunlight on skin. This serenity is not passive. It is earned, painstakingly cultivated through courage and introspection. It is cinematic, almost tactile. The world appears sharper, more vivid, as though you are seeing it through the lens of someone who has survived chaos and chosen awareness over surrender. In this clarity, you realize that peace is not an absence of struggle, but the mastery of your inner storms, a stillness that exists even when the world remains unpredictable. Freedom is not a gift of circumstance, it is the fruit of conscious choice. You now steer the ship of your life through waters that once tossed you violently, hands steady on the wheel, eyes fixed on the horizon. You choose responses over reactions, love over fear, action over inertia. The past cannot bind you, for you have learned to navigate its currents without being swept away. Every decision, no matter how small, becomes a declaration. You will not be moved by every external tide, by every opinion, by every shadow that once haunted you. Empowerment is no longer theoretical, it is practical, daily, tangible. You can pause, reflect, and select the path that aligns with your authentic self, rather than the path dictated by habit, fear, or expectation. This active choice transforms life from a series of reactive moments into an unfolding narrative written by conscious hands, deliberate heart, and informed mind. And yet, the journey does not end here. Self-awareness is a lifelong path, a constant invitation to look deeper, to question more, to refine your understanding of yourself and the world. Each day offers another opportunity to face lingering shadows, to align actions with values, and to choose peace over chaos once again. The path of introspection turns routine into ritual, awareness into wisdom, and solitude into sanctuary. It is a daily commitment to live intentionally, to honor your growth, and to embrace the evolving self with courage and compassion. Hope is not abstract, it is a lived experience, cultivated through consistent conscious engagement with the self. And in this ongoing journey, you discover the profound truth: peace is not found, it is chosen moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. Peace begins the moment you choose yourself.